Hello and a warm welcome to Around the Wickets on ThePapare.com. Now this week we thought we will try and focus our attention on Australia's recently concluded tour of Sri Lanka and where did Sri Lanka really go wrong, and also understand what the problems were involved with Sri Lanka when they particularly played the one day and the T20 version of the series. Now as we know, Australia dominated the one day series 4-1 and also won the T20 series quite comprehensively 2-0. Now this is after they were humiliated by Sri Lanka in the Test series. Now one would have thought that the Sri Lankans would come on very strongly come the shorter format of the game and maybe look to try and dominate Australia. But what really went wrong with the Sri Lankans? That's the biggest question, and that's the question asked by many and also lots of fans who have been disappointed after Sri Lanka really didn't live up to scratch in the shorter format, as I said. Few areas that we thought we should try and look at, and we first thought the way the Sri Lankans played in the T20 series. Now Glenn Maxwell was the man who took the Sri Lankans by storm. Sri Lanka, I thought, didn't have any answer to the way Maxwell batted. The way he played his reverse sweeps, the way he took on the spinners, the way he really charged the Sri Lankan bowling, and that helped him to set up a world record score, world record team score, and very nearly broke the highest individual score made by Aaron Finch. So Glenn Maxwell, I thought, was a factor as far as Sri Lanka was concerned, and his brilliance, 145, clearly illustrated the dominance he had over the Sri Lankan bowling, and also when he came back in the second game making 66, eventually winning the Man of the Series award. So T20, I thought the Sri Lankans had absolutely no chance, and we need to give all credit to Australia, and they just took it away from the Sri Lankans. But I thought the one-day series was far more closer. The Sri Lankans should have emerged victorious, though they lost the series 4-1. Now, where did it go wrong? Now that's the question. Sri Lanka used 19 players in the one-day series. Is that a reason why the Sri Lankans really didn't do too well in the shorter format or the 50-over format? Were they using too many players? Didn't they allow players the opportunity to continue in the one-day series? Now that could be a question, because 19 players to me is slightly too much when it comes to a series of 5 one-day matches. But the silver lining, though we had a few players who didn't really live up to the standard expected, was Dhananjaya de Silva. The strength as far as Dhananjaya de Silva was concerned, I felt, was the maturity that he showed. He didn't seem to have any kind of nervousness in the way he batted. Just going back to that third test match when he came in at 26 for 5, and the way he batted, at least his exterior didn't show that he was nervous. He looked fine. The way he took on the Australians, he looked mature for someone as young as he is and inexperienced as he is. And the way he batted even in the one-day series showed us and told us that he's someone definitely for the future. Now that's in terms of batting. In the bowling department, Amila Aponso, just brought in from South Africa, really snatched from nowhere, one should say. But the way, again, he rose to the occasion was excellent. The way he bowled, the way he contained the Australian batsman was very good. But sadly, I felt the one-dimensional nature of the Sri Lankan bowling, where they completely looked at playing only the spinners, caused Aponso to suffer a little bit. Because to me, he's not someone who will bowl in power plays. He'll have to come in when there is some restriction on, or I should say when the restriction is off, allowing him some space. So when he was asked to bowl in that game at Dambulla with Angelo Matthews suddenly injured, I felt that's where it cracked a little bit. Finch went after him, and from there on, Amila Aponso didn't really look the self he is. But that doesn't take anything away from what a fine prospect and what a fine he has been for Sri Lanka. And also in the series, there was a massive blow for Sri Lankan cricket, and the blow was the retirement of Tilakaratne Dilshan. When I say blow, it is a blow that the Sri Lankans will take some time to try and recover from. Because Dilshan has played 17 years of international cricket, Test, One Day and T20, and in the recent past it was only T20 and One Day cricket, and the contribution he brings into the game as a batsman, bowler, fielder will be hard to replace. But having said that, I believe all good things have to come to an end, and the decision of Dilshan to go is good, because it's best you go when people ask why, rather than you decide to go when people are asking why not. So always great players, they pick their moments, they pick their time, and I believe Dilshan picked a perfect timing. But he would have liked to have gone on a high with a good performance and also Sri Lanka winning. But then you can't have fairy tale endings all the time. Mahela Jayawardene had it in T20 cricket, Sangakkara had it, but I don't think you can expect every player to do that. But well done, Dilshan. He will be missed, and he will certainly be remembered as an outstanding player who captained the side, opened the bowling, opened the batting, wicket kept, bowled spin, and did almost everything asked of him. And in fact, I believe he's the only captain that has really drawn a series in South Africa, test series. So that's something special that Tilakaratne Dilshan will always cherish. And also, one of the areas, just going back very quickly, and one reason we felt that the Sri Lankans really struggled with Dilshan also retiring, is that the Sri Lankan batting needs to really step up, and they need to make sure that the batting order is right and the batsmen step up, the batsmen get runs, and unless you have runs on the board, it's not easy to defend. Now the Sri Lankans' problem in the one-day series were that they gave the spinners pitches that they expected. But look at that second game where they got 280 plus runs, but every other game they were defending a small score. So that's not enough when it comes to one-day cricket. And modern one-day cricket, you're talking about high scores, whatever the pitch may offer and the nature of the pitch may be. It's winning moments, winning faces. And what the Australians did extremely well was that they won those first 10 overs all the time. They just took the sting off the Sri Lankan bowling, and it was difficult for the Sri Lankans to come back. So George Bailey, who had to fly off after the one-day series. He played in one T20 game. He had to stay back because of injury. Was one of the reasons why. The way he used the reverse sweep, the way he really dominated the Sri Lankan bowling, and also the way he dropped anchor was a reason for Australia to finally emerge, winning the series, the one-day series, that is 4-1, with Bailey himself scoring 270 runs in 5 games. Stark's contribution, always immeasurable. Zampa, very, very impressive. I think he's another young player for Australia who will go a long way. Faulkner was good, and Hastings also had his moments. So all in all, my personal opinion is the T20 series was Australia's, but the one-day series, Sri Lanka should have won. It should have been 3-2. It should have never been 4-1. But then that's how the Sri Lankans coped with whatever pressure the Australians threw at them. So it's time that the Sri Lankans learn of these mistakes. So what next for them? Sri Lanka go to Zimbabwe. They play 2 test matches, and they also play a triangular series against the West Indies and Zimbabwe. That will be a series that the Sri Lankans will use to try and recover, because Zimbabwe is not a frightening opponent. But then the next series is South Africa, where they go for a full tour, where they go for 3 test matches, 5 one-days and 2 T20s, and that's where the Sri Lankans will have to be at their best, because they'll be up against a very fine pace attack, and mind you, playing in conditions that are useful and supportive to fast bowling. So lots of challenges ahead for Sri Lanka, particularly after the Australian tour, and after winning the test series, Sri Lanka a little bit disappointing, losing the one-day series. So that's a story on Around the Wickets on ThePapare.com. Thank you for joining us. We'll join you again very soon the next time. Until then, it's goodbye.